All right, so I'm going to do a quick overview of using Galileo and just some tips on your searches. So let's say that we're searching for literacy instruction for students with disabilities. So you may be tempted to search and enter in all of your terms. The problem with this, if you run a search and you include all of your terms, is that there's no way to tell once you get your results which of these terms is improving or complicating the relevancy of your results. So my suggestion is that you take these and break them up into individual terms. So I may, instead of doing literacy instruction, I may just search for literacy first. And what I'm going to be looking for is, I'm going to look for, does my term occur in the title of the different items that are in my results? Does it occur in the subject? So I'm not looking at clicking through to look at the books or the articles. I'm just looking at my terms to see if they occur. And what I want to notice is what other terms occur, which ones are broader terms, which ones are more narrow terms that I may want to use in my search. Because what you're going to find is that it's good to have options, options to go to use a broader term and options to use a more narrow term. So, for example, I see that literacy education occurs, so that may be a term that I want to use in place of just literacy. So I'm going to make note of those, and I'm going to think about, when I go to combine my terms, which ones that I want to use. Now, one thing that you may want to when I was typing, I did notice that literacy instruction was suggested to me, and so I may want to try that term instead. It will also, depending on what you choose about what type of materials, let's say you're only interested in academic journals. Well, if I do that limit, it will change my results. So I'm just going to look through. I'm seeing that literacy instruction is occurring in the title, but it's not occurring in my subjects. And that's important to make note of. Seeing information literacy occur with regularity, but not literacy instruction other than the title. Another option that we have is to put it in quotes, and that is going to limit it to a phrase. Again, I'm seeing that it's occurring in the title, but I'm not seeing it in the subject terms. Let me just limit it to academic journals. Okay, so it looks like literacy instruction is not going to occur as a subject term. Let me show you why that matters. So let's take this Journal of Research in Childhood Education. Let's go into this particular article, and we see that literacy instruction is not a subject, but it is an author-supplied keyword. But this is the subject term, and let me show you what that does. So when I click through on literacy, and you can see it changed the format of my search. Now, what a subject term is that the publishers of these different articles will try to associate an article to a subject term. And that way they can show what is a primary topic in the article. So versus searching for just literacy, as we did before, and getting almost 2 million results, a subject term will limit it to 100. Now we're at 122,000. And so I have those options. I can search for just literacy. I can search for literacy instruction. I can search for it as a phrase. And you can see all of those different searches that I did and the results by clicking on search history. All right, we've explored that one. Now let's go to students with disabilities. And so I'm going to go to New Search, and I'm going to start out with my search now. So students is obviously a very broad term. And one thing you may want to think about is, do I want to indicate a certain type? I know we want students with disabilities, but you may want to think about age, and you can so you can try to convey an age in your search. You can also try to use it as think about what type of school they're at. And so, but I'm going to go ahead and enter in students with disabilities. And you can see I'm going to hide this search history by clicking here. And so automatically the research starter, and these research starters will give you good background research. It's an encyclopedia entry that is suggesting physical disabilities. So I can see, and then the first result is intellectual disability. So when I'm making note, one thing I'm going to immediately think about is, do I need to use my terminology to specify what type of disability? So let's just click through in the first one, and so I can see I'm going to read through my title, and I can read through this for ideas on terminology. And then I can also look at my subjects, and here I see one subject is intellectual disability. This arrow will take us through to the next one, and I can see again different ideas for my terminology. So another thing that when I'm looking through these, if I'm noticing that it's too broad, one thing I may want to do, I generally like to limit it to academic journals. But I may, other than going through, and this is definitely one option, and clicking through and viewing these different subjects, another option that you have is to scroll down to subject and then do show more. Now these are a listing of different subjects that occur in my search. And so I could borrow from this list if anything hits a nerve as far as what I'm trying to search. So I can go in and I can see these different suggestions. So autism, that would be an example of a narrow term that's within my field of interest. So and it may be that would be one that you want to use. But I do see that learning disabilities is listed, students with disabilities, and autism. So all three of those may be options that you want to consider. The way this works, let's say that I wanted to limit it to autism, I could select multiple and do update. Now, within my search of students with disabilities, I've limited it to autism. And so over here on the left, you can always see what you've done. And so you can see that here's my search, and then I limited it to academic journals, and then for the subject of autism. Now, if you find that this is not really in line with what you were looking for, you can always click this blue X and back out of that search. Okay, now I'm going to click on New Search and start again, and I want to show you how to combine those terms. So in Search History, I can see all of the different searches that I've done. So let's say that I just wanted to use students with disabilities and the subject term of literacy. I can check those two, and then I can go to Search with And. Be sure that you click New Search before you do this so that you don't search on top of another search. And then Search with And. And so now we can see that I've got a pretty narrow search with 8,000, and I've searched those two searches together. All right, so hopefully that makes sense in combining and choosing your terms. So another option when you go to New Search is do Advanced Search. Now this gives you an opportunity to enter in multiple fields. So once you've searched for those individually, now is you can come in and search those together. So I can go in and explore my different terms. So let's say that I'm going to try this search. So intellectual disability and elementary education. Those are both terms that I saw when I was searching. And then I'm going to do literacy. So you can see that I may see that I can narrow it more in one of these categories, or maybe one of these could end up being too narrow. So these are all, and I could go in, and one way I may narrow it more is to use that as a phrase. Let's say I'm only interested in academic journals. Let's say that I'm more interested in current research, so I may limit it to 2012. So now we can see that I have 966. That's a pretty narrow search. That's a good starting place to begin to review these. So this stage is all about terminology. And what I want you to make sure that you understand is that you don't want to enter in too many terms at a time. You want to explore your terms individually, and you want to think about combinations of your terms, and also you want to think about which terms do I want to leave more broad and which ones do I want to make more narrow. Okay, so this is the first step in your search, and which offers the transition, which is the next part, which is varying your search. Okay, so I'm going to stop there and let you review that particular search instruction that I've given.